Thank you very much for your time today. I'm Jonathan Crisp. I'm one of the directors at Barnowl, and we are very honoured to have Mark Casey from Deloitte here today. Mark and I go back, we were just talking about how far back we go. I think it's all the way to 1997. Mark was my mentor at Deloitte, and we were just talking about Mark got me into golf in the we were in Zimbabwe at some Troutbeck presentation, and Mark said, no, golf's easy, just bring some clubs, borrow some of my clubs, and a little white ball, and all you do is, it's easy. Gee, I tell you, I got definitely the award for the most golf played, but nearly killed most of the golfers. The balls were just flying. I even hit balls backwards. It's the most amazingly difficult game if you've never hit a golf ball before in your life, but Mark got me into golf. I think the other time we played once, I remember Mark had got some really fancy golf clubs, actually, pings I think they were. And I remember we were playing at Danefern, and this fancy new driver, and the head came off and landed up in the river. It was just the most amazing thing. Anyway, we weren't really talking about golf today. But Mark has been with Deloitte for 32 years. Mark's been a partner for 20 years. Worked in the Dublin office, the London office, the Joburg office, where Mark was my mentor. Now I think since 2015 you head up the global media sector for Deloitte. Prior to that, as I say, Mark has been risk advisory partner and also heading up the whole technology, media and telecommunications for Africa, and as a global executive for, as you say, media for Deloitte worldwide now. So Mark travels around the world, works with people like Time Warner and all the major media companies, Naspers obviously, but that's probably even small compared to some of the other ones that you work with. So thank you very much for your time today, Mark. I really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to your presentation.
Thanks. Jonathan.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm really pleased to be here, and for Jonathan, to help out with what I believe are very frequent and very informative sessions for the whole community of people and clients connected to Barnowl. So I'm delighted to be here and to share some thoughts with you on quite an unusual topic. I think the invitation would have perhaps intrigued a lot of people. What the hell is this? This Red Queen. And it is a really, I like analogies, I like stories and analogies. So this particular analogy for me, I find a very powerful one. And those that the CEOs of companies I've presented this to have really, they've said, oh my God, I wish I had this analogy 2 years ago, because I could have used it more for my board, for my executives to understand where we are in the competitive landscape, and most importantly, where we are against our competitors. And the subtext for this presentation, at the heart of it all, is about innovation. And what I'm really going to explore with you today and demystify is like what real innovation is and what in fact innovation is not. And most of what is called innovation today is not innovation. And I think what's actually happened is it's become such a buzzword, innovation. I actually went on to Google just to try and, how many hits do you get if you type in the word innovation? There's 509 million hits. If you add in consultant, you get 120 million hits. So there's lots of people out there wanting to tell you how to innovate and techniques and practices and so on. But it's a world full of buzz terms and cliches, and I think that has created a lot of confusion. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is in essence pure simplicity that's been ignored. I was with a wonderful presenter a week or two ago called Eddie Obeng in London. And he and I are very good friends, and I came across him on a TED talk, in fact. He's one of these, very popular speakers around the world. His first TED talk had 1.5 million views, like a really, really amazing guy. And he was saying to me, Mark, he says, we do get duped as human beings in this world by cliches. He said, if I want to run an event and it's about innovation, he says, I'll probably get a pretty meager attendance, you know. He says, if I call it agile innovation, oh, now hang on, now there's a lot more interest. If it's digitally driven agile innovation, then people will probably sell their houses just to get into the audience, you know. So we've got to actually demystify all this. The simple truth, if you want to get ahead of the competition, is you have to have an aspiration that takes you to a point in the future that's beyond where your competition might be. Now that's quite different to a lot of people. When they look at competitive positioning, they're trying to outperform their competition as they understand they are today. But what I'm going to explore with you in the next 45 minutes or so, because we'll allow time for Q&A, is that doesn't actually get you ahead. It just keeps you in line with competitors. And that's where this whole concept of Red Queen comes in. Now, I'm going to first of all explain a little bit more about what the Red Queen is and the derivation. Some of you probably will have guessed it already, some of you may not. So let me just get us all on the same page. So, Lewis Carroll in the late 1800s wrote a book, Through the Looking Glass. Okay, just to kind of put this thing in some sort of context. So Alice in Wonderland with the Red Queen, and you'll have seen, you know, Helena Bonham Carter in the movies, you know, the Red Queen. She's chasing the Red Queen, and she makes comments that, you know what, I'm running as fast as I can, but as fast as I run, the whole scene around me stays the same. It's not changing, which for Alice was unusual. I mean, how can you run and not get from where you were to another place at least? How can you be standing still? And this is what the Queen had to say. So I'm going to let you see a slide now with the exact quotation out of the book. Have a read. I presume you can all see it on the back, can you? Everybody okay? You can see that? So Alice is saying, you know, this doesn't make sense to me. And the Queen says, well, in our world, as opposed to in your world, okay, running as fast as you can doesn't cut it. You've actually got to run twice as quickly. Now that's a paradox. I mean, if you're running as fast as you can, how can you run twice as quickly? The Red Queen hypothesis was actually used in the scientific world, specifically in terms of evolution. Okay, so in evolution, to survive, not to thrive, to just survive, you had to continuously adapt and change to suit your circumstances. That's what evolution is about. And in fact, that's where the concept of Red Queen, the Red Queen hypothesis was determined. You can apply this clearly in business. So if you are just adapting all the time, you're really following a Me Too strategy. Now, many great companies have followed Me Too strategies. And some greater companies have actually excelled because they've decided that that wasn't for them. And I'm actually going to tell you a little story now to illustrate this point. I'm going to use the mobile phone handset market, because that's really, I think, where people can understand, they can feel, they can see. I look around the audience, I think you're all old enough to remember, if I take you back to this page here. And by the way, we're painting this picture now using basic strategic concepts around competition, which is the trade-off between performance and value and price. Okay, that's your competitive landscape. So back in 2003, not that long ago, you had Nokia. Do you remember the Nokia phones back then? Cheap and cheerful. I mean, you could get more fancy Nokia phones, but essentially their performance levels were not that different. It might have been a bit thinner, you know, the battery might have lasted a bit longer, the screen might have been a bit bigger, but what really did that mean in terms of performance? It wasn't actually significantly different. So their price performance, their production frontier looked like that. That was Nokia back then. If I look at the other, and I'm going to look at three, the other two major phone set phone handset manufacturers, Motorola. So that was Motorola's. Now, theirs, if you can remember their device at the time, a bit more stylish, color screen, you know, flip open. It was kind of a little thinner, lighter, but it was seen as having an enhanced level of performance relative to Nokia for certain models. Okay. Now, you can see they've got a different production frontier. Well, why have I done that? Because what I've done there is change their production frontier, so part of it's dotted line and part of it's solid line. The solid line represents their competitive advantage. Performance better than the competition at the same price. That's their competitive advantage. You with me? Because this is an important set of concepts that I'm going to use and build up in subsequent slides. So that was Motorola. If you add in BlackBerry at the time, do you remember that? That's like a serious businessman's phone. You know, who wants a color phone? That's for kids and games. You know, I'm a serious businessman. I'll have a black and white phone, and the phone must be black. You know, and you know it's got a keyboard, because then you're serious. Do you remember that? In fact, many of us thought that at the time. You know, when you took out a BlackBerry, that's a serious business device. You know, you're dealing with somebody who was important then, and that was a more expensive device. It was more expensive, you remember? But it certainly had more functionality because that was where you started picking up email. Do you remember? I can see my email on my phone. That's breakthrough stuff. Right? Do you remember we used to say that? That was the competitive landscape. There were, of course, other players, but just for the sake of the illustration, the focus is on those three. And those three together represented the majority of the phone market back in 2003. You all with me? Right. So let's move ahead to 2005. So 2 years later, and this was the Nokia innovation. We must give our customers more, and we must charge them less. Isn't that a good deal? Of course it is. Shareholders loved it, the market loved it. Nokia came out with an enhanced device. That was their innovation. And what did they do? Well, they've eaten into the market share of Motorola, haven't they? Well, what did Motorola do? Well, anything you can do, I can do better. But they also came out with a slightly more chic handset, as you can see. And they tried to reclaim some of the lost ground to Nokia, and of course to take some of the ground that Research in Motion through BlackBerry had achieved in prior years. Well, of course, you know, our sophisticated business phone, where we're going to take it further, you know, we're going to dramatically improve it, we're going to make it blue. But certainly, you know, I love that. But certainly the whole point is that they also wanted to extend their production frontier. So as you can see, there's a pattern here. They're all moving forward with an absolute intent to innovate and to improve their position in the market with their competitors and their offering. That was 2005. So as you'd have guessed, in 2007, same thing. All eating into one another's market share, all progressing along a path of performance and price. But as you've guessed it, they're all moving in lockstep with one another. There's nobody getting ahead of the other. And that's what we call the Red Queen. So if your innovation programs and your enhancements to what it is you do in offering in the marketplace are actually just keeping in lockstep with your competitors, you're in the Red Queen space. Now, why I like this analogy, you start to ask yourself the question in your own companies, is what we're doing, you know, Red Queen, or is it beyond the Red Queen? And it's interesting to distinguish between the two. Now, I'm not knocking the Red Queen. There is, you know, by definition, if you are enhancing and improving your performance, at least you're maintaining your position in the market for a period of time. There's nothing inherently wrong about it as long as your time horizon is not very long term. But to deny yourself investments in the beyond the Red Queen space is potentially at the detriment of your company's long-term survival. and this is going to be explained now by the next few slides as I take you through, you know, what happened then, what happened in 2007. In 2007, Apple brought out their first device. Now, the Apple device at the time, it only managed to get a small percentage of the market. It was expensive. The first Apple device came out at $800 US. It was a relative brick in size. In fact, Mike Lazaridis, the co-CEO and co-founder of Research in Motion, was quoted as saying at the time, "My God, these guys have stuffed a Macintosh into a phone." You know, what's this about? So they brought out this device, and it only managed to secure a small piece of the market. But what they were actually doing, and then became more evident as time went by, is that their innovation was around the app ecosystem. That's actually what this was about, the app ecosystem. And what they did is, and you can see their production frontier now is a very broad production frontier, that effectively translates into a game position beyond the Red Queen. You with me? Right. So this was what I call the Apple move. And it's actually something I want you to remember from today in your own businesses. What's our Apple move? As opposed to Red Queen. Is what we're doing just an adaptation to the business we've got today, with technology enhancements all around us, which is very tempting to do, but which could well be beaten? Or are we trying to get ahead of where the competition might be, which is more aspiration and more difficult to do, as we'll explain. You see, how did all this happen? Well, now, whether the bright minds at Apple had thought of it quite this way, or whether this is a, you know, post-event analysis with hindsight to justify it, you know, we can debate that. But it's pretty good for my presentation to say it this way. So, what happened with the phone manufacturers? They really were in the more for less game. You know, give the consumers in the marketplace more phone for less money. But it was all about the phone, wasn't it? The phone was getting cheaper and cheaper. It was more for less, more for less, more for less. And how we're interpreting it, what Apple did is, instead of them getting into the more for less business as well, saying, look, that's for those guys. We actually want to be in a different business. We want to be in a business here which actually says, you know, with technological developments, we have actually put an Apple Macintosh into the phone. And you know, because we've been able to do that, this phone now effectively is free. The phone functionality in the Apple phone was free. We're not interested in that. We're interested in something else, which was the app ecosystem. And ultimately then the connections with all the other Apple devices and that whole kind of broader technological platform. And then ultimately, their view of the world, which technology was a beautiful thing. There was no other technology company of any type that talked about beauty in its products, but Apple did. If you go back through some of their communications, they spoke about beauty. It was not a word. I mean, Jonathan and I talk about, 20 years ago. We didn't talk about a computer being beautiful then. Yeah. That was quite nerdish. I mean, if you just did. But people do talk about Apple devices as being beautiful. There is a fashion element to them. There is an attractiveness to have these devices. It says something about you, their brand and your brand, and the association of the two. So, the phone for them was free. This was not the evolution of the phone for Apple. This was the evolution of the personal computer. That's what they were doing. It's quite a bold move, but it just illustrates the point that if you were just going to play in the phone improvement game, we were all on a race towards more for less, more for less, more for less. And effectively, more for less eventually will become free. Now, I'm going to share with you some stories here in the context of cloud, IoT, artificial intelligence, and in blockchain to illustrate how, these four dimensions to the technology world of today create threats. If you're in those businesses, or even if you're not in those businesses, how these dimensions of technological change impact your business. And they're either a threat or they're an opportunity, depends how you want to see it. But it's important to understand that this more for less dynamic is at play in all these as well. And I'm going to go through some examples just to illustrate the point. In other words, what happened in the mobile phone handset business was not totally unique to that period of time and to mobile phone handsets. It's applicable today and it's applicable here. Which makes things quite scary, because now if you're thinking about your competitive positioning in the future, some bold moves may be required beyond what you're necessarily comfortable doing. So, and the message really here that I wanted to share with you is, and this could be quite a frightening thing for many people, your assets or franchises of today, which make you money, could well, through the advent of these four, if you want to see it as the four horsemen of the apocalypse, could make your franchise and assets free in the future. What happens if what you make today, make money out of today, from an asset, becomes an asset which has no intrinsic value in the future because it's for free? How are you going to make money in the future in that environment? And really, isn't that the point of what happened in the mobile phone handset business? That the phone devices now, they all look the same. It's not about the phone. It's not about making a phone call. In fact, I'm co-authoring a book at the moment called The Great Race, which is about how value will be created in the future across all sorts of industries. And in the media sector, because I look after media, with the media sector, we're talking about a platform for life. So mobile devices connecting you to a platform for life. The phone, it's not a phone anymore. It's a digital platform for life enabled by a piece of technology that happens to make calls as well, if you so wish. So, let me go through these examples. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. That was the first time I got that wrong. I'm not used to using a scroller upside down. Bear with me. So, let's look at cloud. Okay, cloud. And this is a really interesting one. Probably the simplest of the four to see the dynamics at play. But in IT architecture, you've got a trade-off, don't you? That's been the way since time immemorial. If you want a cheaper offering, then you buy standardized a standardized product or a standardized service, but that's it, standard. If you want something more powerful or customized or more valuable for you, you pay more. That's a simple trade-off. So let's look at this in the context of cloud. Now, I've used EMC, I could have used HP, I could have used IBM, it doesn't actually matter. Cloud providers, but I've just used EMC. And this is really an interesting one in the context of the Dell acquisition. I don't know if you're following this in the press, but the Dell acquisition of EMC and how, because I still don't understand how this is really going to work. And this is a massive deal. I think it's about $67 billion US of a transaction. So there's a lot of money at stake here. So EMC have cloud offerings, okay, and they've had cloud offerings for a while. What's happened there is, and this is the Red Queen story in action. So you get competitors that start to pick off parts of the market, and they have a different production frontier. So Huawei is an example. So what does a Huawei do? They've got really low-cost infrastructure, which they leverage into the cloud space on some basic applications, and that's how they started into this game. So that they now create their own little competitive advantage, a bit like the Nokia story in the previous set of slides. And then at the top end, and these guys it's interesting to watch them, Amazon Web Services. In fact, some of our research is showing that the two dominant players in cloud in the future will be Microsoft and AWS, almost to the detriment of everybody else. That's how we see the market playing out. This is going to be a winner-takes-all game. So right now, but Amazon Web Services is a very different story to Huawei. Because what they're actually doing in AWS is leveraging their own systems for your benefit. It's a much more sophisticated offering, but it's more expensive. It's designed not necessarily for millions of people around the world, but it is there, and it does eat into some of the EMC market share. You with me? Right. So now what happens over time? Everybody starts extending their production frontier because you've got more scale, more capacity, cheaper cost. You know, I can give you more cloud space. I can give it to you cheaper. You know, that's happening to us all the time. We've seen that. I was thinking this morning coming here about how, do you remember years ago, flash drives? Do you remember when, you know, like you could get like a gigabyte, you know, on a flash? I mean, that was a big investment, you know. And you'd show that to your mates. Look at that, I've got a flash drive. I mean, flash drives they're for free, aren't they, these days? Eh? Every conference you go to, you just get flash drives. What do? You just give them to your kids. What, to dunk in their Milo or something? Nobody pays attention to these things. But that's like massive amounts of space for free. So, don't think that cloud isn't also going to go this direction too. So, what is going to, as they keep enhancing and growing their capability and their scale, what happens is players like EMC, whose offering right now is quite traditional, like many other players, the IBMs and the HPs and so on, it's not going to be about cloud. Cloud is going to become free. So, and the example I often share with people is, if you're at home and you're like me and you subscribe to something like a Dropbox, and you know you kind of want to move all your photo albums off your PC, you know, at least if there's a break-in or there's a fire, at least I haven't lost pictures of all my kids and so. And you know, we've got 10,000 photos or something like that, you know, through all the last 7 or 8 years or 10 years. Anyway, we've got a bunch of photos and we move them all into the cloud, and that's great. That's fine today. It serves a purpose. The cloud offering serves a purpose. There the photos are. I can find them easy. Let's move 5 to 10 years out. Maybe not even 10. Let's move 5 years out. And it's not 10,000 photos. It's 1 million photos. Because now, you know, we're all taking photos in the family. We're all using the same Dropbox account. And then, in fact, we'll probably all combine as the broader family. So the cousins and the aunts and uncles, and we all have all our pictures stored in the same place. And these are the things that people offer, because the space becomes so abundant. It's not a resource-constrained environment anymore. It's a resource-abundant environment. Now you've got 1 million photos. And now you've got 5 terabytes of pictures. How the hell do you find anything? So it's not about the cloud service anymore. It's about something quite clever in the search capabilities that are offered to you, or the way things are aggregated or sorted, or intelligence built in. Like, I want to see all the pictures of Jonathan when he was 22. You know, I want to be able to find stuff in a quick and easy way. It's not about the storage anymore. The storage story is over. That's why cloud as a basic service is going to become free. So we will have people making money out of cloud today, but the days are numbered, because it's not going to be a value proposition that will make you money in the future. It is a value, it is basically an asset or a franchise that will reduce down to a free offering. What you do in that free environment becomes your new value proposition for generating revenue. Now, what that answer is, I don't know. If I did know, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be in the Bahamas with my yacht, you know, with all that IP I've converted into billions. The whole point is we've got to think about the world ahead and how to capitalize on it. Human knowledge. Let's move into the world of artificial intelligence. Now, this is slightly different. To acquire human knowledge, all of us here have had to spend time. There's just no quicker way to do it. You know? So if you're like an IT systems engineer with 10 years experience, well, how do you get there? Well, you've got to spend 10 years. There's just, you know, there's no other way to do it. But what artificial intelligence is going to do is change the time continuum for acquiring that information. So this currently is the trade-off point of price and performance, based on time. what's happening here is there are artificial intelligence systems being developed by crunching data sets and gathering information, some very basic ones, so the likes of, you know, Siri, that's a form of artificial intelligence, help you find the nearest restaurant, okay? Fairly basic stuff, but it just illustrates the point. At the top end, you got Watson, okay? Watson's doing things like helping to diagnose rare or complex diseases. It's pretty sophisticated stuff. It's still very embryonic. I'm not sure it's even working, but this is where their frontier is. This is where their competitive advantage is right now. So, but there is still definitely, the Red Queen is when human being is still dominant in this space. But what's going to happen over time is all of these frontiers keep moving. So Siri is going to get better and better. I was actually reading an amazing article by the chief architect of Alibaba who said that voice recognition is its accuracy level is something like 92 or 93%. The problem with a 7 to 8% error rate is that nobody wants it, because at that error rate you have to talk clearly and slowly and take your accent away, and you know probably no other and it's after a while I can't be bothered. I think I'd rather just call somebody or type something. The convenience factor is not there. This architect said when it gets to about 96%, the whole world is going to use voice recognition. There's a tipping point. Once that level of error reduces, that you can actually just pick up the phone and talk without slowing down, with noise background, not worrying about accent, and it gets the answer right, then you'll use it. Because that has to be more convenient than ever typing in numbers and calling somebody, or even just typing in some question into Google. If I can just talk at the device and not have to do anything else, and it comes back with an answer, the whole world will use voice recognition. There's a tipping point, and it's going to be soon. And we're all going to be surprised by exponential change. And why are we always surprised? Because we don't think that way, or we are not wired to think in exponential ways. Illustrate the point, if you haven't heard this story already. If I say to you to take linear versus exponential, if I ask you to take 30 linear steps from this room, how far would you get? Probably outside the front door, maybe in the car park. Okay, could we all picture that? If I said take 30 exponential steps, how far would you get?
To the moon.
It's 26 times around the Earth. Now, unless you knew that answer, you probably had no idea what 30 exponential steps looked like. It just illustrates the point. We're not wired to think exponentially. That's when exponential things occur, we get surprised. How did that happen? Did you just see that? Voice recognition. Wow, I mean, I never saw that coming. But we actually can figure out that these things do happen quicker than we expect. So when people say to me, oh, cloud, I mean, of course they're going to be. I mean, when is it going to become free? Quicker than you think. These things are always quicker than you think. We're always getting surprised. We must get used to that. So, what's going to happen, of course, as information gets processed at faster paces through bigger servers and with more complex algorithms and more machine learning capabilities and natural language capabilities built into AI, the human element starts to fall away. You know, the AlphaGo developed by Google, which is a piece of software designed to play the game Go, okay, beat the world champion, actually only about 3 or 4 months ago. They've calculated that, and by the way, this piece of software is continuously learning. So it's not just beating the world champion, it's now achieved a level of learning that no human being can basically play this game against this computer. But its rate of learning is 4,600 times faster than a human being. What that effectively means, if you're like a tax consultant of 10 years, go back to the original story, instead of taking 10 years, that's now crunched down to under a day. That's not more for less, that's free. Imagine a world where there's no more tax consultants. You can go into like a Google tax advisor, type in all of your circumstances, and back comes an answer. Where is it? Where are the tax consultants in the world then? Where are the lawyers in the world? Because if you think about it, these are services based on an accumulation of information and synthesizing them through various algorithms. Sounds like something that could be disrupted quite easily. And how many other services are there in that field? I've just picked tax and I've picked legal because they're easy ones, but there are many others too. Now, an interesting one in the area of in the Internet of Things. In our world today, many systems, pieces of infrastructure have built inefficiencies in quality buffers because we don't know enough about what's going on, and there's too much of a delay which we can't always accommodate, so we have to allow for errors. Right? Okay, so these inefficiencies are there because we just don't have enough information at the right time. We haven't got sensors, we haven't got enough touch points in an environment to figure out what's going on. So we build in inefficiencies. We do. So if we look at some of the developments that are occurring right now, the likes of Nest, that's quite a basic, that's kind of home automation, you turn on the heat in the evening so when you come home it's not cold, you're nice and comfy. I mean, that's kind of a basic thing. But then you get to the top end where General Electric and its grid systems are helping utilities around the world to optimize their gas turbines. So instead of having fail-safe mechanisms and all sorts of planned maintenance, which is actually far too costly and unnecessary because the sensor data is just not there to make better, more accurate decisions, they're actually helping them save money. So you can see the storyline here. Of course, there is a point that mankind, can I say mankind these days? Personkind, okay? People, so people still need to use the information to help improve things and to learn and optimize. But even that's going to go away. And eventually you're going to get to a world here where the computers themselves are going to take us beyond the point where we don't really need to participate in the learning because they're doing the learning too. So, again, a world of free as opposed to a world of value that we can charge for. And this is the one that surprised a lot of people. So now let's think about blockchain. So, financial intermediaries in the world today, they have a fabulous franchise and it's built on, and they have a fabulous franchise for a reason. They have to maintain healthy balance sheets. They have to maintain strong global networks to manage counterparty risks. But blockchain is about to change all that. So let's look at things like cross-border transactions, which the settlement periods for those can take days, if not weeks, around the world. With blockchain, that can be reduced to minutes. Smart contracts, if you're familiar with this concept, built into the blocks of blockchain. Algorithms designed to deal with all the counterparties and to settle all the conditions built into contracts using technology. You start to wonder, where's the role in much of the banking infrastructure? In fact, I was chatting to a very, very senior banker yesterday. He said, you know what, I can see the back offices of all the banks disappearing over time. They're not going to be needed. It's all going to be in the blockchain. Now, there is a period of time, of course, where the Red Queen still thrives. You still have banks, especially banks, competing, using blockchain as a way to propel themselves forward. But there is an inherent limitation that they are relying on their traditional underlying processes, which are flawed. When those processes move into the blockchain itself, then you get to a world where the whole authentication and validation is completely distributed. So the whole back office infrastructure bank starts to fall away completely. Maybe much of the front office. Banks will become very, very different types of organizations. So, there's a general rule that in innovation, you mustn't be timid and move short steps. You've got to move into the new world with massive leaps and bounds. And that is right, but there's far more to it than that. There's a cognitive bias towards, and this is something we need to be mindful of, and I think you've got this, hopefully you got this message in the talk so far, that taking technological developments and just enhancing what you do today is actually not innovation. It does not get you ahead of where the competition might be, because your competition are doing exactly the same things as you. Always believe that, because in most cases it's very true. So, it's important to think of the world in the context of, if the assets that I've got today are going to be generating less and less revenue into the future and eventually become free in the future because of resource abundance versus resource scarcity, how am I going to make money in the future? What's my Apple move? Many of us, can this really happen to me? Now, we met these guys. These are the CEOs of those 3 companies that we started off at the very beginning of the story. Not one of them was ignorant of the fact that the phone was becoming a computer. Not one. What makes it worse, and I really like this slide, I came across this the other day, what really makes it worse is that the extent of competition, the surprise from left field of new market entrants, of real power and clout, has also changed a lot. This to me is such a powerful picture here of how quickly the billion-dollar companies are emerging. It used to take years and years and years to create these companies. Now it's taking just a year or two. You think back to when Jono and I were together, we talked about that golf game earlier, Google had just arrived. Right? It took years before Google became a dominant force. But you look at companies like Oculus Rift and Snapchat, they've only been around a short time. And already billion-dollar companies, and growing at a rapid rate, and creating a competitive threat to you, and basically making the more for less game free. Now, why do people not do these things? And I think a lot of it has to do with this. And I just this timing was so good for today, because I came across this the other day. Somebody posted it to me on I think Twitter, which is the antibodies in an organization that undermine the change. And I know why people laugh, because I was thinking the same thing. You start thinking of the people you know who you can put into those boxes, eh? Isn't that what you do? That's what you do. The first thing you need to do is recognize that this is actually happening. People like the status quo. Some of the most innovative businesses I've seen in prior years who now seem to be slowing down. And one company yesterday I was speaking, and I said, why doesn't the chairman of the board, who has potentially the longest term horizon, who's not running the business, who's looking after the interests of all stakeholders in the broadest sense, the purest sense, surely he will want to embrace this change. He says no, because he's leaving in 2 years. He just said to me, make sure the share price is as high as possible when I leave, so that when the shares vest, I can take the money and run. So this is a real hassle for us. And so I'm not saying that this thing is so easy, like there's the blueprint, go out now and do some beyond the Red Queen innovation. I'm saying to you that this is why it's so difficult to do. And what you need to start thinking about is, right, there's so much we can do today that's racing the Red Queen. It does make money, there's no question about it, but it's not going to be the end game. We need to have some investments and some bets in the future. We are not going to be able to succeed with those bets in the organization of today, maybe even in the same building, even with the same people, because of this factor here. Because they will just keep eating away at these initiatives. If we don't do it, sorry, I keep going the wrong way. If we don't do it, just look at the power of this slide here as these market shares dwindle. These were really big, globally successful companies. Tens of thousands of people. Articles, interviews with their executive, how they succeeded and secured such global domination, and they could all just disappear. So why do you think any of your businesses are not vulnerable to these sort of changes? Because these guys were. So that is the picture I wanted to share with you. And as I said, the power of this analogy was and many CEOs I've chatted to really like this because it helps them to get their boards to realise that you don't want to be like the board members of Nokia. I mean, I'd love to meet one of these board members of Nokia. Must have sat there, deciding on the 2025 picture. Go off, have a nice lunch, and then just watch the company just dwindle to nothing and get sold off to Microsoft. I mean, I'd love to chat to these people. What would you think? I mean, could you have not considered that the status quo had to change or needed to change? How you got there in the first place was a very unusual move. How you succeeded required some bold moves. Why did you stop? Why would you ever stop? So there's a whole world of psychology in this thing as well. As I said, people like the status quo. Leave me alone. It's fine. Whether they say it to you, whether they imply it in their actions, it's the real danger to true innovation. So thank you. That's all I wanted to share. I hope that was interesting. Yeah.